and welcome. My name is Jocelyn and today we are doing a tag video all about eyeshadow palettes. Now I first saw this tag done by Sarah Rose, but it was started by Allie Glines and Samantha March. I will have all three of those channels linked down below so you can go check out their version of this tag, but I actually don't know how many questions there are total. 13. There are 13 kind of question slash actually more show and tell, I guess they're questions. Show and tell your palette that is this, your oldest palette, your newest palette, that kind of thing. To start off, question number 1, show your newest palette. So my newest palette is, well, I think technically my newest palette is still in the mail. I ordered it about a month ago from Kaleidos Cosmetics, and it is of course still in the mail because it's coming from overseas. But the newest palette that I actually have in hand right now is this one right here. This is the Natasha Denona Mini Gold palette. I did do a tutorial testing new makeup video recently where I used this, and it works really well. Really enjoyed this. So this is my new palette. It is my only mini from Natasha Denona, and I really like it. It's so cute. The quality of the shadows is on par with her larger palettes, and yeah, so this is my newest palette and I love it so much. Next, show your oldest palette. So I had to do some digging on not only this channel of mine, but on my previous channel. So yes, I did have another channel once upon a time. There are videos from, I think, 5 or 6 years ago on there. They're all privated now, so you won't see any videos on those channels. I still have them and I will never delete them because they're really fun to look back on. But I was hoping when watching those videos that I would see my makeup collection, but on that channel I never really showed my makeup collection. I did Ipsy and Birchbox unboxings and stuff like that, and like 2 haul videos where I never showed a palette. So I went to the very first video on this channel, which was a makeup organization. Oh, I think it was actually more of a going over my entire makeup collection, which was quite the trip down memory lane to look back on because my collection has changed so much. In that video, there is, I think, only 3 palettes that I still have. That is the ABH Modern Renaissance, the ABH Master Palette by Mario, and the Manny and Makeup Geek palette. All the other palettes from that video, I'm pretty sure I have decluttered or used up and gotten rid of, decluttered. And out of those 3 palettes, I think, I kind of had to just guess, but I'm pretty sure that this palette right here, the Makeup Geek and Manny MUA palette, is the oldest palette as of right now in my collection. That was a lot of rambling for just this answer. So I don't have pan in any of these, which is disappointing. I would like to include this in some kind of project pan, but I currently don't have a project pan in which I could do that. So eventually I'm gonna get some pan in these because they do still function really well and I do really like the shades in here. So yeah, this is the oldest palette in my collection and it is very old. Number 3, show your most expensive palette. So this is by far my most expensive palette. I don't know if I'll ever purchase another one of these palettes, and it is the Natasha Denona Gold palette. Wow, that is just like quite reflective. This is my most expensive palette, but I did not pay full retail. I believe I bought this with a $100 Sephora credit thing where you can cash in, I think, like 2,500 points and then get a $100 gift card to Sephora. So I only ended up paying, I think it was $29. So I think these are $129 if I'm not mistaken. Pretty good deal if you think about it that way, but this does retail for $129, which is crazy. And this is what the inside looks like. It is a beautiful, it's a beautiful palette. It really is. The shades in here work so well. However, I would never have purchased this for the total retail price. Although I love the shades in here, they're very unique and the shadow formula is really, I personally think, really good. The color story is just not something I would have paid that much money for. Now, she does have another version of palettes which are a little bit smaller, so the pan sizes in her other palettes are smaller than this, and they retail for closer to, I think, $65 if I'm not mistaken. I do have one of those palettes. I have the Sunrise palette, right? Oh, it's actually behind me right there. Yes, the Sunrise palette. And those are cheaper, same formula. I would buy those over this. And I don't know if she's really coming out with too many of her big palettes anymore. I hope that she keeps focusing on smaller, less expensive palettes, because that's the way to go. But yeah, this is my most expensive palette. What is my most affordable eyeshadow palette? So I have the little e.l.f. bite-size eyeshadow palettes. I believe that these retail for $3.99, so super affordable. I have a total of 3 of these. Berry Bad is my favorite one, and then I also have Cream and Sugar, which is this more neutral tones, and then Rose Water, which is more of these kind of pinky tones. Out of these two, so Cream and Sugar and Rose Water, I really don't like the 2 darkest shades. I just kind of find that they're a little harder to work with, and I just don't really like the tones of those 2 dark shades, but I really like all of the shades in Berry Bad. But for $3.99, you can't really go wrong. The packaging on these, although it is still, you know, kind of cheap, it's still pretty sturdy, pretty good. I think that Sarah Rose also mentioned these possibly as her most new palette, I think, but those are my most affordable palettes. Okay, I have a cat on my lap and he's making this very difficult. Show your everyday palette. So I think that my everyday palette kind of changes. Like right now I have been using the Natasha Denona Sunrise palette quite a bit because it's in my Shop My Stash. But if I had to choose one palette that is truly everyday, that I could use every day to create a very simple or go-to eye look, maybe deepen it up every once in a while, it's gotta be the ColourPop Give It To Me Straight palette. One of my all-time favorites. I really, really love this palette. It is my perfect color story. Here it is right here. I will give you a bit of a close-up of this one. I really love this palette. It's got a really good mixture of mattes and shimmer shades in here, some good lighter tones and darker tones. Just a really good palette all around. I love it so much. I am also trying to pan a shade in here. Next we have Show Your Most Colorful palette. So I almost chose the Lunar Beauty Life's a Drag palette because there's quite a bit of colorful shades in there, but there's also a lot of neutral shades in there. So like half the palette's colorful, half the palette's neutral. And a palette that I have that is truly just so poppy and colorful is the Kaleidos Cosmetics VR Neon palette. And if you've never seen this palette before, it is just quite it's a lot. It's beautiful and so easy to use on the eyes, but every shade in here is very vibrant and colorful and beautiful, and that's why I ordered another one that is on its way to me right now, but I have no idea exactly where it is or when it will be here, but I'm very excited about it. But this is my most colorful palette. I love it so much, and really great formula, really great indie brand, beautiful packaging. I love this one so much. Next, Show Your Smallest palette. So I actually already showed my smallest palette, and it is these bad boys right here. I also have, again, the Natasha Denona Gold palette. Both of these are very small, but I guess these are actually smaller by 1 shade. So these are all of my smallest palettes right there. Next, Show Your Biggest palette. By far, my biggest palette is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe palette. It's freaking huge. I used to have more large Morphe palettes like this, but I got rid of them because I just hate how big this is. I get it because they wanted to include all of those shades. Here's the inside in case you're curious. This is a very old palette. You can see that I had one of the ones with the card insert. Huge, domineering. I hate how big it is. Not a fan of the size of these. That's why I decluttered all of the other ones that I used to have. But there it is. I still have it because I do like the formula and the shades. So, okay, next, show your palette with the best memory. So, I don't know if this counts because this isn't a full palette, and I'll explain why, but no other palette in my collection comes close to the memories that surface from this palette. And it is the Naked 3 palette by Urban Decay. Now, if I flip this around, it is just the tin top. Because this palette had so many memories, I wanted to keep part of it, which might seem absolutely ridiculous, but I did pan this last year and I'd had it for so long that it was expired, so I got rid of the rest of the palette, but I kept the tin top. I graduated college in 2014, and that year my grandpa came to visit me for my college graduation, and we also went to Ulta, and I picked up this palette to purchase, and I was originally going to purchase it myself, but when I put it down on the counter to pay for it, my grandpa swiped in and he paid for the order. So this palette always reminds me of him, and that next year, 2015, he passed away from really aggressive cancer. Not a great ending to that story, I guess, but this reminds me of him and just how amazing he was as a person and the effect that he had on my life. Okay, next, show a palette worth the hype. Okay, so I have 2 here, and it's these two right here. So I have the ColourPop Going Coconuts palette and the ABH Soft Glam palette. I'm pretty sure that Sarah Rose also used this as her most worth the hype palette, and I think that this is the one I'm going to go with also because I haven't used every single shade in the Going Coconuts palette. This is one that I've heard so many people talk about and rave about, and I also, every time I have used it, have absolutely loved it, but I haven't used every shade, so I don't feel comfortable choosing that one as the one. So I am going to go with the Soft Glam palette. I was really resistant to pick this up when it originally launched because I looked at it and I said, this just feels like every other palette. You know, it just is a very basic neutral palette, and also I don't really love the mustard coloring of the packaging, but I did get it for Christmas, and every single time I use this palette, I love it. I love what it does on my eyes. The formula is just so beautiful. There's a really great combination of mattes and shimmers, which is really important to me in a palette. It performs beautifully, and I have nothing bad to say about it. I love it so much, and this was definitely worth the hype, and I'm so glad that I have it because this is I think going to be a go-to palette, especially for travel, just because it's going to be really easy to throw a look together with and just really easy, really great to use. Okay. Contrary to that, show a palette not worth the hype. And I have what I think is a very unpopular opinion. Some of you may be shocked by this. I do like this palette. Almost every palette in my collection is something that I really like. So I really like this, but this is a palette that a lot of people have a lot of FOMO over because they never got it. And I don't think it was worth the hype. I do like it, I really like using it, but it's nowhere near my favorite. And it's this one right here. This is the Master Palette by Mario, a collaboration between Mario and Anastasia Beverly Hills. I do have quite a few dips in here. This is a palette I have used quite a bit. Again, I do really like this. It's just not, you know, it's just not everything. And I feel like for a lot of people, this was everything, and it just wasn't for me. Do I like it? Do I use it? Yes to both of those. Moving on from that, show your favorite palette from a favorite brand. So I had a little bit of trouble with this one because I didn't really know what to choose. I tried to think of all of my favorite brands and ones that I find the most success with, and that includes ColourPop, Tarte, Urban Decay, I suppose, and really if I go with ColourPop, because ColourPop is one of, if not my all-time favorite brand, my favorite palette from them is probably the Give It To Me Straight palette because I just love it and use it so much. But right now, at this time, I think that my favorite palette from them is a new palette from them in my collection, and it is the Meant to Be palette. I really love using this palette. Every single time I've used it, it's been so easy to work with, and it's a very obviously colorful palette. It's got these really beautiful mint toned colors. Again, a really good combination of mattes and shimmers, which you know I love. And I think that this is my current favorite. Pretty sure. I mean, I've also just talked about a lot of my other favorites throughout this video. So this one, the Give It To Me Straight palette, the Soft Glam palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills, those are all favorites of mine. Also the Sunrise palette by Natasha Denona, but I don't think that Natasha Denona is one of my favorite brands because I only have like those 3 palettes from her. That one, the gold, and the mini gold. Okay, and very last, show your most used palette. So I think that this is my most used. This is by far one of my oldest aside from the Manny and Makeup Cake palette, and I think that my most used is this one right here. So we're going back to ABH. I think I've now talked about all of my ABH palettes except for the Noravina palette. I didn't mention this at all yet. Here it is, making an appearance. So the Modern Renaissance palette is again one of my oldest palettes in my collection, and this is what the inside looks like. I do have pan in that shimmer shade right there, and then I have a fair amount of dips in the rest of the palette. I use this quite a bit. I do enjoy this palette. There are a handful, I almost feel like Give It To Me Straight also might have about the same amount of use as this one, but this is one of my oldest, and I know that I have used this a lot. All right, and there is the Eyeshadow Palette Tag, If you would like to answer any of these or all of these, I will have all of the prompts listed down below. I'll also have the 3 channels I mentioned at the beginning of the video listed down below for your viewing pleasure. If any of my answers matched your answers, you'll have to let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and if you want to subscribe for more content from me, don't forget to do so before you go. All of those buttons are down below, and I think that is everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.